Hello everyone, Alistair Gold here, and welcome to Gold Goes to the Movies, Episode 3. Thank you very much if you've already watched Episode 1 and Episode 2. If anything, hopefully it's given you a long list of films that you will either want to see or want to steer clear of. And hopefully today I'm going to give you another 4 to make your mind up about whether you want to watch on the small screen, watch on the big screen, although actually these are all on the small screen currently. And just ones that you think, nah, you're right, I'll leave that to you. If you have watched episode 1 and 2, you'll know that we've got a little bit of a theme that goes on. One is the movie prop slash toy thing behind, which I'm going to run out of very shortly because I don't actually have that many, I realised after starting that. And also the t-shirt thing, which I will show you in a second. Obviously, I can understand that it's a bit off screen at the moment. So, hopefully that, you'll work out what movie that's from. It is actually from my favourite movie. Please do let me know if you're in the comments below. It's actually very precariously balanced, which is why it's got something behind it. And at any point during this, it could fall down. And in itself, I guess that's some kind of comedy value. In terms of the t-shirt, last week, actually, not many people, hardly any, whether it was because they didn't know what it was from or whether they just couldn't be bothered to comment. It could be either. Not many people worked out what the t-shirt was. It was a little bit kind of indirect, I would say. It was a Genco Olive Oil Company t-shirt, which, if you've watched the Godfather series, you might remember is the Corleone family business. And so, yeah, it was a little bit kind of indirect, I guess. But there were people that got it. There were people that left a couple of comments underneath, so well played. This week's is this effort. Probably work that out, hopefully a lot more easily than the last one. So movie watching this week has been a little bit more spaced out, which is why this video isn't the exact kind of week between as it was between the first two. And that's mainly because my wife and myself have been wanting to kind of fit in a bit of TV watching as well. We've been watching things like The Bear and Masters of the Air and trying to fit them in too. So yeah, these are all kind of small screen films that I'm going to talk about. All very different. A few Oscar winners checked in there. 3 films from 2023 and 1 film from 2016. 2023 films are Anatomy of a Fall, The Boys in the Boat, and Oppenheimer. And the 2016 film is The Founder. And all of them I'd recommend in different ways. I watched all 3 2023 films with my wife, and the 2016 film, The Founder, I watched by myself late at night once she'd gone up to bed because she'd already seen it. She's getting very involved in this, watching even more movies than we normally would so that I can chat about it. I think she's enjoying that. So let's start with Anatomy of a Fall. This was on Amazon, and I'd probably say was my favourite of the bunch. It's a terrific film. It really is. And also contains, as a little kind of side part, a supporting role, one of the greatest acting performances from a dog I've ever seen in my life. Seriously. We'll have a little chat about that in a moment. But it's a French film. Technically, it's called Anatomie d'une chute. What I would say that I know there are some people that maybe aren't as keen on foreign cinema, or maybe just don't even like subtitles because, you know, you're having to constantly look up and down, I guess, is one aspect of it. I've always really liked foreign cinema, so it's never really been an issue for me. But what I would say to those who maybe that does put them off slightly, I would say that the main character throughout this film speaks English for the majority of it. And that means that other people speak English to her. So I would say maybe almost 2/3 of the movie is actually in English, despite it being a French film, and it's a terrific film. I honestly, I think it's one of those that if you don't watch it, you are going to miss out, because I loved it. It's won the Palme d'Or at the Cannes Film Festival last year. Justine Triet, she became only the 3rd female director to win that award. It won the Oscar this year for Best Original Screenplay. Got 2 Golden Globe Awards for Best Screenplay and Best Foreign Language Film. And as someone that's a little bit nerdy about Hitchcock, I had to study it as part of my degree many years ago in a galaxy far, far away. This film had real kind of Hitchcock vibes about it to me. That's how kind of highly I'd rate it. It's part murder mystery, I guess, in a French snow-surrounded chalet. It's part courtroom drama, and it's all about relationships as well, and also how a relationship can seem absolutely fine from the outside, but once you kind of lay it bare, and in this case, in the most brutal and public fashion, it can maybe not all as it appears is probably the best way to put it. It's a fantastic film. It's, like I say, directed by Justine Triet, written by her and her partner Arthur Harari. The main lead that kind of holds it all together is Sandra Hüller. She's superb. She's the main character, also named Sandra, who is suspected of killing her husband. And you might have been well aware she was nominated for an Oscar for this performance. She's a German actress, and actually, as I said at the top of this, her nationality plays a part in the role as well, because she's not quite fluent in French. So she's kind of almost playing a little bit catch up as things are developing around her, and perhaps the French people don't quite trust her, some of them as well. She's seen as a bit of an outsider, and yeah, she is superb. You can absolutely see why she was nominated. Her son, young son Daniel, is blind. The character is played by a young actor called Milo Machado Graner, who is not blind. You would never know. I had to Google it to check whether he was or not, because his performance is that good. He had to learn how to play piano for this movie as well. And actually, interesting, Hüller had to learn how to speak French. She didn't speak French, I don't think, before she started filming this. So proper preparation had gone into this movie as well. Swan Arlard. If you've watched episode 1 and 2, you'll already know I kill the pronunciation of foreign names, often just normal sounding names. It's a real issue in my life. He's very good, Swan Arlard, as the defence lawyer, who clearly has a little bit of a thing for Sandra. But yeah, for me, the standout star was Messi the dog. 7-year-old border collie. He plays Daniel's guide dog Snoop. If there was an Oscar for dogs, he would win it, I guess, paws down rather than hands down. Honestly, there's one scene in particular in this movie that he's so integral to this scene, and apparently it took 2 months to shoot this scene. It is incredible. If you haven't worked out, by the way, already, I should have said this at the top. These are spoiler-free reviews, so you can kind of watch them before you've. It's kind of there to help you decide whether you want to go and see it. I'm not going to kind of dive into the whats and whos and wheres and plots and all this sort of stuff. Just kind of brush on the top of it and give you my view, just so you can decide what you want to do with that, really. But yeah, Messi the dog is incredible. Some of the scenes are kind of played out from his perspective, so you see the camera's quite low down, and that's very cool. I love that. And yeah, my wife has just become absolutely obsessed with him since watching the movie. He did actually win the Palm Dog, which I'd never heard of, which apparently is an acting award for animal performance, which is unofficially handed out at Cannes. So yeah, so he did win an award, and I think he was also in the audience at the Oscars. I'm pretty sure I remember seeing him and Ryan Gosling being a bit obsessed by him. I saw some clips of that as well. Brilliant movie, honestly. If you can go and if you've got Amazon, watch it. If not, find some other way to watch it. It's got so many different aspects to it. It's simple yet complicated underneath the surface. It's yeah, fantastic film. Next up it was also on Amazon, was The Boys in the Boat, which I'd say was my wife's favourite film of the week. Very close between that and Anatomy of a Fall for her, but The Boys on the Boat was the one that she liked the most. It's George Clooney's 9th film as a director. It's based on the book by the same name by Daniel James Brown, which was a #1 New York Times best-selling non-fiction novel. If you haven't heard of it, it's the story of the University of Washington rowing team and their incredible journey to compete in the 1936 Olympics. That might sound like, but it's better than that. It is. It's a remarkable true story when you kind of dive into everything that really happened in it. You know, it happened during the Great Depression and the lengths that these people got to get to where they eventually do in the movie. What I would say is, because it's such a remarkable true story, perhaps it was too difficult to kind of veer too much away for George Clooney from just a essentially letting the story tell itself. Yeah, if you don't know what happened, and I imagine many people don't, it was new to me. Maybe, in America it's more well known, I'm not sure. But it's got a bit of everything. There's highs, there's lows, there's suspense, there's sports drama. If I'm going to be ultra critical, I'd probably say it never really rises above that of a sports drama movie. Despite the remarkable subject matter, it's it's enjoyable and it's definitely inspirational, but I would never say it kind of reaches the moments of being truly brilliant, which I felt Anatomy of a Fall did at times. Callum Turner's probably the main lead of the ensemble, and you can have a main lead in an ensemble. He's currently in Master of the Air, which is very good in as well. He's a solid lead. He kind of, every scene he's in, you can kind of feel it centres around him. Joel Edgerton he's got the gruff coach with a heart of gold role down pat. He's just terrific in that. There's Peter Guinness turns up in it as like the wise old boat designer, maker Yoda type, who's very good as well. He doesn't literally look like Yoda, but he is very good in that role. That's my only thing, was that there's probably, I felt there was an even kind of deeper way to tell this story. Whether it wouldn't then be the family movie it kind of is now is another thing. But like I say, in the Great Depression, so kind of bleak, the kind of things that people are having to go through there. And I think maybe, just could have scratched a little bit deeper into that and shown really how far these boys in the boat essentially came to just overcome all of these hurdles in their lives. We're kind of given little bits of a hint towards how difficult it would be. We're never really seeing it. So while the rise is remarkable, maybe it would be even more incredible if you saw exactly what they were coming from. But it is a good, solid film. You'll find yourself willing them on through each challenge that's placed in front of them. It is a good Saturday night film, I'd say. A good, solid watch without ever rising into the great kind of category. That's Boys on the Boat. Next up, I'm going to go for The Founder. I'm going to flip back in time to 2016. On Netflix, another slice of Americana, which I guess The Boys in the Boat was to a degree as well. It's the story of how McDonald's became the huge entity it is today. I found this really interesting because I didn't know the origins of that story and where it all came about. I don't know whether, with the way I've just described that, whether people kind of might think, oh, this is about McDonald's. It's going way back. This is back in, I think it was 1950s, and it's very much a period piece, and back then, and how these kind of establishments just didn't exist in this kind of form. I really enjoyed it. I really did. I'd maybe say this was my second favourite. It was up there. It's up there because I forgot about Oppenheimer. We do have to talk about that as well. This film, The Founder, is directed by John Lee Hancock, who seems to have been around forever as a writer and a director. He's the kind of guy that, as a writer, often brushes up Hollywood blockbuster scripts and makes them that a little bit better. But he's also a very accomplished director. He directed The Blind Side, the Oscar-winning film, which it was up for Best Picture and Best Actress, which Sandra Bullock won. He also did Saving Mr. Banks, which I really like and is one of my wife's favourite movies. It's very good, about the lady who wrote the Mary Poppins books and essentially Walt Disney trying to turn them into a Disney film. And that's a great film if you haven't seen that as well. It's really good. And The Founder was his next film as a director after Saving Mr. Banks. I really liked it. Like I said, my wife had already seen it. She really enjoyed it, and kind of this was one of her recommendations to watch, actually. It had me from the start. It did. I do like a good kind of period drama from kind of that, like I say, that slice of Americana back in the 50s, 60s, and it's got all of that. It's got a great cast. Michael Keaton plays Ray Kroc. He's the man who took the idea that essentially Richard and Maurice McDonald had with this burger restaurant, and he convinced them to let him franchise it. And this is a story of what kind of happens next. Richard and Maurice are played by Nick Offerman and John Carroll Lynch. They're perfect. I love Nick Offerman. He's such a good actor. He embodies one of my favourite TV characters of Ron Swanson from Parks and Recreation. He is amazing in that role. He was superb in The Last of Us, just the one episode, but he was brilliant in it. He's also in Civil War, which I'm hoping to see this week at the cinema, the Alex Garland film. Yeah, he just brings a level of class to everything he does, Nick Offerman. John Carroll Lynch, he's one of these actors who you will see if you watch this film and you'll be like, I've seen him before. And that's because he always pops up in these little roles in like really good films. He's in Zodiac, which is a great film. He's got a really kind of small but key role in that. He's in Fargo, Face Off, Gran Torino, Shutter Island, Crazy Stupid Love. He's got a good role in that as well. He's also in the Aaron Sorkin film, The Trial of Chicago 7, which I haven't watched. I think that's on Netflix. I've still got to watch that. There's strong female support in there as well. Laura Dern's in it. Linda Cardellini, she's in it as well. I always remember her from ER mainly. But she's obviously been in so much stuff since then. But this is Michael Keaton's movie. The supporting cast is great, and it's fleshed out with really good kind of other actors. You've got Patrick Wilson's in there as well. You might know from the Insidious movies and Watchmen. BJ Novak's in there. You might know from Ryan from The Office. Obviously a writer and director of his own right as well. He also worked with Hancock before in Saving Mr. Banks. He had a slightly bigger role in that. And actually Patrick Wilson keeping the Fargo theme going, because he and Nick Offerman were both in Fargo TV shows, season 2 I think it was, and Lynch was in the movie. So yeah, a bit of a Fargo theme going on there as well. But this is the Michael Keaton show for me. He's so good, and it's a fascinating plot because it goes in a direction which is very comfortable, and you understand kind of like it's just your classic 1950s America kind of thing. And then suddenly it takes a little bit of a turn. And I love the turn allows Michael Keaton, I think, to really show his range as an actor. It's terrific. If you're looking around for something on Netflix to watch, I really recommend The Founder. It's very, very good. Like I say, I didn't know how McDonald's became the huge kind of thing it is today. And I would not have guessed that this is the way it became what it is. So, yeah, honestly, completely recommend it. Last up, and the reason it's last is because it has been done to death a bit. It is Oppenheimer. I watched it on the smaller screen to see how it worked on there. Having seen it at the cinema, I watched it on the smaller screen, and also my wife hadn't watched it, so to kind of let her see it for the first time. If you've somehow missed all the buzz, been living in a cave or something, Oppenheimer was one of the 2 big films of last year, the Barbenheimer phenomenon. It won 7 Oscars, Best Picture, Best Director, Best Actor, Best Supporting Actor among them. Like I say, part of the Barbenheimer phenomenon last year, which kind of got everyone back to the cinema. It made just under $1 billion worldwide. It was actually the 3rd highest grossing film of the year, behind the Super Mario Brothers movie and Barbie on the top. It is the story of J. Robert Oppenheimer, who was the theoretical physicist who in World War II helped develop the atomic bomb with a team of scientists that were all under his management. The cast in this movie is ridiculous. I think there was a movie in the last couple of episodes I did where I read out the cast and I was like, wow, look at this great cast. This beats that. It is ridiculous. So you've got Cillian Murphy, Matt Damon, Robert Downey Jr., Emily Blunt, Florence Pugh, Kenneth Branagh, Josh Hartnett. It was great to see Josh Hartnett back in stuff. I haven't seen enough of him recently. Alden Ehrenreich, Jason Clarke, Tony Goldwyn, who I kind of trying to say to my wife, like, what do you remember him from? And I was like, she couldn't remember. I was like, Ghost. She hated him in Ghost. Matthew Modine, Jack Quaid, Scott Grimes, another one who I remember from ER. Tom Conti, British actor as Einstein. Rami Malek turns up. Casey Affleck. Even Gary Oldman rocks up at one point as well. There's even more actors from various movies, from TV shows that I could go on and name it. It's probably the biggest ensemble cast that I've seen in a film. Incidentally, for all of those people in it, it's the first Christopher Nolan movie not to contain Michael Caine since Insomnia. He had a little, for those, because I kind of saw that fact and I was like, no, I don't remember him in Dunkirk. And then I looked back and he had a little kind of voice cameo. I think he spoke to Tom Hardy over the radio at one point, just a little bit. But yeah, first time Michael Caine hasn't been in it, which is a bit weird. I do like a bit of Christopher Nolan. He's just got this really high rate with the quality of his films. Even the ones that maybe aren't as celebrated as Insomnia, which I just mentioned, I really like that film as well. And I love the fact that he's been able to make these films that are very artistic and very personal in certain ways, but are also big crowd-pleasing cinema, get you in there, see it on the big screen kind of films. And this one, to be fair, I wanted to see how it worked on a small screen, and it did. It did work as well. It should be seen on the big screen because of I guess what it is about as well, and the scale of that. But it does work on the small screen too. I do love Christopher Nolan films. One of my friends always tells this story about how he was a young local news journalist way back, and he had to write this local story, and he managed to get an interview with Jonathan Nolan, who is Christopher Nolan's brother, terrific writer and producer in his own right. And while he was on the phone to him doing this interview, he was desperately trying not to kind of say, like, I love Christopher Nolan, I love your brother. And he was trying to just do this interview with a very talented man in his own right. And it was only towards the very end of the interview he allowed himself to just say, oh, I should say, I really love your brother's films as well. He's such a talented guy. And so you can imagine his shock when Jonathan Nolan said, well, he sat across the kitchen table from me. Would you like to speak to him? And passed over the phone, and my mate got, it was only a small chat, but got a very kind of warm and pleasant chat with Christopher Nolan, and he kind of still cites it as probably the greatest moment of his career as a journalist, which he isn't anymore. That would be so cool. So for Oppenheimer, Christopher Nolan's latest, it is almost 3 hours long. You got to know that going in. It's a long film, and the best advice I could give to you about watching it is make sure you are switched on, very alert, and are not distracted from the start of the movie. I tried to warn my wife about that, but she made the mistake of occasionally looking at her phone and the opening minutes, and that will absolutely stuff you if you do that. And that is because they throw so much scientific stuff at you in the opening act or so. And you can easily fall behind and get a bit lost in it all if you're not trying to pay. Even if you are paying attention, you might get a little bit lost. Which for me, actually, on the second viewing, I did understand a lot more about those early scenes. It kind of, I could see it lost my wife. She actually did end up nodding off right towards the end, which was partly my fault for starting a 3-hour movie at about 8 o'clock at night, or just after, actually. But yeah, I liked it. I do like Oppenheimer, and I did feel it was better on a second viewing with that better understanding of it. Cillian Murphy is superb. This is his 6th team up with Nolan in a movie, and he brings this intensity to this role, which is it's fantastic. At times, he seems so disconnected with the world around him, like the physical world, and at other times he's right in the middle of it, trying to influence what's happening. It's a really terrific role. Robert Downey Jr. also, obviously, Cillian Murphy won the Oscar for Best Actor, and Robert Downey Jr. won it for Best Supporting Actor. He's also excellent in a role that kind of ends up becoming a little bit bigger than it initially seems it's going to be. He was very good, although I still feel Mark Ruffalo was hard done by for that Best Supporting Actor. I just thought he was amazing in Poor Things, in such a strange kind of role. They're very different roles. This is always the thing, I guess, with any award ceremony. It's like, how do you judge completely different films and different performances in one category? It's very difficult. Excuse me. But I did think, I thought Robert Downey Jr. was excellent, and it's very a kind of transformative role for him. He doesn't look like Robert Downey Jr. It is a very good role, but yeah, Mark Ruffalo for me was just such a kind of eye-catching role. Maybe that's what it is. The rest of the cast are as excellent as their names would suggest. They all bring this kind of star power to it. I would say Emily Blunt and Florence Pugh steal a lot of the scenes they're in. I thought they were especially excellent. You see a lot of Florence Pugh, which surprised me. I'm not entirely sure how necessary it was. Perhaps it did just kind of capture a natural, comfortable moment. Excuse me, I knew this was going to happen towards the end of this one. maybe it was that exactly that. It was capturing a natural moment for her and another character. I'm not going to say who it was, but yeah, it was just a bit like, whoa, okay, right, all right, and the rest of the film wasn't like that. But yeah, maybe that's just me. Other people might think it was entirely in keeping. But the movie as a whole, I felt it manages to tread this line between capturing the suspense of this race that the US are in, but also making it very clear what they're racing towards, which is essentially killing unimaginable amounts of people in the most horrific of ways as well. And also how jarring celebrating the success and progress towards that is. That's the thing. It's very interesting when you're watching it as a viewer, what you agree with, what you find yourself like, why am I kind of happy that they've done that? Maybe I shouldn't be. And it shows how torn I think a lot of the people were in the process of kind of this race to create the first atomic bomb. Some trying to justify it with, if we don't do it, they'll get there first. And, if the Nazis get it, they'll be way worse than we are with it. And that obviously is a line of thought that doesn't work for some people as well. But it is, as a film, it juggles all of that, I think, quite well. And it allows you to make up your own mind on it. It's got huge scope. I'm not sure if it's a movie I would probably go back to watch again. Like I said, I watched it a second time just to kind of understand it a little bit better. Is it one that, like a lot of Christopher Nolan stuff, that if it's on I would just leave on and watch again? I don't know. It's certainly an event movie, but I'm not sure that I would go back and watch it again and again like some of his other films. But still a terrific film, and worthy of the Oscars for the scale of it, the scope of it. Just gutted I never got to watch it on IMAX. I think an IMAX would have been an incredible way to watch it. So that's the 4 movies for this episode. I wasn't able to get to the cinema this week, so I'm going to kind of make up for that this week. I'm hoping to try and see Monkey Man tomorrow and then Civil War at the weekend. So I'll be able to hopefully speak about those two. And whatever else comes on TV and are on various streaming things. I think Rebel Moon Part 2 is coming out this week, which is a very different film to both of those. I've noticed that Argyle, which I missed at the cinema, has popped up on Apple, so I'm going to try to see if I can squeeze that in this week as well. And yeah, we'll have loads to talk about in the next one. There's been a few good trailers popping up as well, I've noticed on the internet. Joker, Folie à Deux is on there. Joker 2 is on there with Lady Gaga as Harley Quinn. Speak No Evil, a James McAvoy film, which looks very tense and creepy as well. Speak No Evil, that looked good. Fly Me to the Moon, Channing Tatum and Scarlett Johansson, that looked very good as well, about the kind of a different take on the moon landing, or the race to get to the moon. Some really good ones, and they're obviously all. I think I saw the latest Bad Boys one as well. I think that's been the trailers for that's been out for a week or so, but that looks like a Bad Boys film, and that's kind of, I guess, what we want from a Bad Boys movie. So they're all kind of coming out as the year progresses. There's a few, I think, got the Fall Guy isn't too long as well. I think that's the start of next month. So loads on the horizon. There's a new Beverly Hills Cop film as well, although I don't think that's till June or July on Netflix. But yeah, loads for us to discuss. Hopefully that episode gave you 4 more movies that you can decide whether you want to watch or not. Anatomy of a Fall, I still massively recommend. Don't just kind of see it as, there's a foreign film on Amazon. It's fantastic. It really is. But the other 3 are all good in their different ways as well. Very, very, very different films. Right, I'm going to head off now and hopefully go and watch another film if I can, and we'll discuss that, whatever it may be, in the next episode. So yeah, hopefully that was all useful to you. And as always, stay healthy, stay safe, look after yourselves. I shall catch you later. Goodbye.